is a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Aquilini.
No, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself, I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin, would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm gonna have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
Oh, man, do we have some things to talk about. Welcome to the Hockey Podcast. We are, of course, you can follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, the Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, the Hockey Podcast, where we currently sit at 100, and the jersey number of Cameron York, 40. Nope, sorry. That's 45. Represent a little higher. Anyway, you can subscribe there. You can also subscribe to the audio as we get forward, as we move on. As that will be out shortly after the podcast. This has been an insane day, but we have, and I'm so proud of us. I'm just a proud papa right now as we are breaking. Some new, not breaking news, but we are reacting to the biggest. Well, yeah, this is the biggest trade, probably at least one of the biggest trades of the day, as Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who was rumored all off season last year. Is OEL coming to Vancouver? Well, he came a year later, and he's bringing a friend with him. He's bringing Connor Garland, a restricted free agent. They're coming and going to Arizona. Jay Beagle, Antoine Roussel, Louis Eriksson, the 9th overall pick in this year's draft, a second-round pick in the 2022 draft, and a 7th-round pick. Now
in the 2023 draft.
The 2023 draft. So it's a massive, massive trade, and we are going to respond to it. We have Chris will come in, but we have hello to Sean. Hello, Sean.
Hello, Kevin. This has been quite the day. We've got way too many fucking trades. That's right. Time of the swear is 3:17.
Yeah.
Because how many we're at now? Like it's a handful now, and they're all big.
We had the Rasmus Ristolainen trade to Philadelphia. We have the Val Buchnevich trade for Sammy Blaze. That was shortly. And then just as we were about to go on, Seth Jones has officially moved on to Columbus. So there is
Columbus.
To Chicago, sorry. And so we have 4 trades with before, and we are 56 minutes away from the draft. So and I think we're going to have a couple more during the draft as well. So I think we're going to have some insanity here. Tyler, are you ready?
I am ready. For
good.
What?
For our conversation.
Oh, okay. Well, nice to see you guys. Yep, back home in Terrace. Got in yesterday. It's considerably cooler here than at any point on my lovely vacation to southeastern BC, the Okanagan, and to see you guys. So, yeah, no, this is exciting. I was going to say, as far as where this trade ranks, is it probably the biggest one since the JT Miller transaction a couple of years ago at that draft. So that's so we got a lot to sink our teeth into here. Yep. And Devin has joined us as well. Hello, Devin.
Hello. I know I'm not on the tweet, but I'm here, and I'm excited. This is just pandemonium. This is exactly what I was hoping for, and I'm sure a lot of fans were hoping for. Just having lots of movement, big names being swapped, and I'm with you, Kev. I don't think that. I think there's going to be more trades here within this first round. Trading up, trading down. Talk about Columbus having, I believe, 4 first-round picks now. So their draft room must be going fucking nuts right now.
Yep. And I think where I want to start is kind of, well, this is, so I'd like to have a little, can I chat with Canucks Twitter just for a little bit here? I'd like,
That's done at your own risk there.
okay, I'm
but what I'll do is I will, because Chris isn't here, I will do his like reach for popcorn meme that he likes to do for this.
Okay. It is, sometimes you don't need to react right away. You can wait. You can sort of just be calm, just wait a little bit, see what happens. And it may not look as bad as you think it is. And this was a clear example of this, where I think that there was some real early overreaction to this trade from the Canucks perspective. And I think that when people start thinking about this a little bit more, and I'm going to also say this to Flames Twitter as well, that is laughing right now at Jim Benning. I think that the Flames fans are not going to like this trade, because I think that the Canucks came out a little bit better than I think people are giving them credit for. I think that you look at a contract and you see 8 years and $66 million and $8 million a year, and you're freaking out. But to me, this trade is a win-win trade. From Arizona's perspective, they are doing what my version of what I'm calling Moneyball here. They have now 27 draft picks in the next 3 drafts. They're trying to build through the draft. Not all 27 are going to work out, but for them, they're trying to take this cheap route to build up. For the Vancouver Canucks, and Tyler will resonate with this. They're get in the playoff mode now. This is not build for the future. This is now. This is a trade for now. And it's, to me, I look at this trade, and I know that people like to pick winners and losers. This is a win-win trade for both organizations. I think OEL is a better defenseman than a lot of people are giving him credit for. And I'm telling you, Canuck fans, you are going to love Connor Garland. Connor Garland is one of those you got now Connor Garland, Niels Höglander, Vasily Podkolzin. You've got 3 pesty buzzsaw kind of wingers that are going to cause a bunch of problems for defensemen in this division. To me, I don't know who wants to start. I'll throw the floor over, but to me, this is a win-win trade for both organizations. That's the way I'm going to start this.
Sean?
It's so easy to get caught up in the length of the OEL contract and how much his cap hit is. They did get some retention on it, which is really, really good. But when you break this trade down, they dumped Ericsson's contract, they dumped Beagle's contract, and they dumped Roussell's contract. Those all had, you can argue, negative value in the market.
And they combined for $12 million of cap space.
Yeah. Now, so you take that off, and it's a first, a second, and a 7th in 3 separate drafts for a top 4 defenseman and a top 6 winger. You take out the length of that OEL contract, and that's a tidy piece of business from Jim Benning. Now, when you pull that contract back in and look at the whole deal, it's no longer as big of a W as you would hope. But I still think that the system that Rick Tocchet had the Arizona Coyotes playing did not do any favors and did not put Oliver Ekman-Larsson in a position to succeed. I think that Travis Green's system and working with a coach like Brad Shaw is going to put him in a position to succeed. Oliver Ekman-Larsson is a minute-munching defenseman who is a very smooth skater. You can put him up against anyone and not feel too worried about how he's going to do, which is what they needed if they were going to be moving on from Alex Edler. And so you need to make sure that you have someone who can do that, who can play bigger minutes on that left side. And bigger minutes sort of more defensively, because you're not going to give those minutes to Quinn Hughes. So bringing in someone like that was very, very much needed. Otherwise, they were going to have to find a way to move Nate Schmidt over and then fill that right side. Now, Nate Schmidt is someone who I think is still probably going to be moved. Braden Holtby is still someone that's probably going to be moved. So all that draft capital that the Canucks gave up in this trade could potentially, you're not going to get a first and a second in terms of value back for those players, but they're going to get, there's a good chance that they're going to be able to get some draft capital back for that, for those players. So wait until you see what else is done before you get too wrapped up in the giving up draft capital and locking yourself in long-term to an Oliver Ekman-Larsson, because I think he's going to be better than people are giving him credit for. And I think there's going to be draft capital coming back in trades for Braden Holtby and Nate Schmidt.
And before Tyler goes, I just something, and then James is brought this comment up, and I think it's important here. And a motivated OEL wants to be here. And last year, there was only 2 teams that wanted OEL was interested in going in. It was Vancouver and Boston. Now it was a disaster how Benning handled it last year, for sure. Yeah. But he wanted to come here. So that I think is a very important thing in this conversation.
Well, that's very key. Like they need a resurgence from Oliver Ekman-Larsson, or this deal is going to turn out to look poor. It's going to maybe turn into another Nate Schmidt situation where there was a lot of excitement about bringing him in a deal in which the pieces going the other way were reasonable and all that. But so ultimately trades only look good based on how the players perform after the deal. But in terms of the cap space situation, and Cap Friendly laid it out nicely today, but we talked about $12 million from the Canucks going out. I mean, $6 million of which was from a guy in Louis Eriksson that wasn't even playing. So that's huge. The 12% retained salary with Oliver Ekman-Larsson means the cap hit for the Canucks is $7.26 million. So it's $4.74 million of cap space gained. They do need to re-sign Connor Garland. He was on his last contract, a cap hit of $775,000. So even with a modest increase, they've still gained cap space. Alex Edler's gone. There's cap space gained there. So the Canucks have given themselves some more short-term flexibility. Obviously, the long-term concerns are the Oliver Ekman-Larsson contract and whether he's going to be able to live up to that cap hit in the later years. And what makes me uncomfortable, I'm sure for lots of people, reasonably so, giving up another first-round draft pick here and 9th overall at the draft tonight, that is not ideal. But at the same time, and Kevin, you alluded to it, the future is now with the Canucks. I mean, there's a lot of obsession on Twitter about draft picks and building for the future. And like, why are we building for the future? I mean, yes, you have to have an eye on the future, but I'm sorry. Like, I'm not interested in another year of slop like we just saw with the Canucks. And that was 56 games of slop. Do you want 82 games of slop and wasting another year of Petey, Hughes, Besser, and Horvat? Like, I don't think so. You've got Podkolzin coming in. You've got Höglander coming in. You've got Thatcher Demko, who's taken the reins now in net. Like, it's time to do something. If you're going to bring the coach and the general manager back, then roster change was going to happen. And obviously it's a big shock to the system for people to see it this dramatically. It probably doesn't dramatically improve the team, as much as you'd like to see. But I think it is an improvement on paper. And then there's the cap space gained. And, the other factor is it's a bit of a shakeup. Beagle and Roussel were fairly big presences on the team, I would say, in the dressing room. So, they move out. That sort of is a change to the chemistry and the dynamic that the Canucks are hoping is going to work for them.
We'll say hello to Chris. Hello, Chris. But you know why we're here. Good to see you. But we'll hear from Devin, who feels forgotten, I think. Anyway.
Yeah, I've been left behind multiple times by my parents, so this isn't nothing new. This isn't anything new. It's good. Double negatives equals a positive, anyways.
Yes. It does on this show.
Yeah. You know what? Short term, I really like it. I think it's fantastic getting Garland at 25. You talk about, I think that there's still something to that he can give more than he showed within the Arizona organization, surrounding him with better players. So I think that having him on the flank there is going to be massive within that top six. You guys hit it on the head. It's just the long term 7.26 cap hit for the next 7 years or 6 years or whatever the heck it is. And it's that's the big thing. But as of right now, the draft capital, I don't understand what the big deal is. You guys have BLOCKBUSTER, Bo Horvat, Niels Hoglander, Pedersen, good young youth, Quinn Hughes. Those are the players you want to get out of drafts, and like having that right now, you got to go for it. And maybe this kind of speaks towards Jim Benning and potentially him wanting to potentially quote unquote save his job. I don't think that that's quite the case. I think it has something to do with it. But once again, this ownership group wants to win now, and the fact that they did as poorly as they did last year is not acceptable within their eyes. And I said it to you guys, Kevin. I got to tell you, you said you don't think anything's going to happen today, man. Like I said, Benning's hot and horny. He wanted to get something done, and he definitely did. So
I said I didn't think that Nate Schmidt would happen today. I didn't say that anything wouldn't happen today.
Before Chris goes here, I just want to jump in on Devin's point there. I mean, I talked about not wanting to watch another year of slop, and clearly ownership feels the same way. So and Francesco's already done the supportive tweet about welcoming in these new players. So clearly, yes, although it may look like it's a save the general manager's job type of move, it's not one that happens without the blessing of ownership, I think.
And before Chris goes, before Chris goes, can I just add something here? I can't help but wonder how much even that whole this is something that's just coming to my head, Tyler. You brought it up, sort of JT Miller coming in front about the COVID situation. It wasn't only that the season was such a disaster, it was a disaster off the ice as well. I think that there are a number of players that were really pissed at what happened last year. And I think that there may be some within the core of that room saying, you know what, we need to get our shit together. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. Anyway,
I wouldn't either.
All right, and just before Chris goes, I'm Chris, you can actually go now.
no, hold on.
We had to give more time for coming on late. So.
I still hold on. All right, Chris, go, and then I got something else to say at the end here. Considering
John, are you sure? Because I feel like everyone else has gotten their. Well, wait before Chris goes.
I'm sorry, Chris.
Even Christy's getting in on this.
Okay, so
go for it.
I'm 99% confident that everything that I'm going to say is probably already being said. So that being said, I'm going to be ignorant and I'm just going to say what I want to say regardless. And if you do it, then so be it. So overall, I feel like this is a general win for the Canucks. As far as whether it's like a win over Arizona, I don't think so. I think ultimately the smarter play was probably done by Arizona as far as long-term planning. That said, because of the situation that Jim Benning got himself in with all these negative value contracts that we've been sitting on for the past couple of seasons, the fact that he was able to ship out 3 of those in one trade, I consider a win on its own. Yes, we swapped that out for a massive OEL contract, but I feel like a general change of scenery for OEL, and especially playing in a city that he actively wanted to go to, I think is going to be a positive. We might not see the same 25-year-old OEL that basically earned himself that contract. That said, if he's at least somewhat manageable, basically doesn't pull a Louis Eriksson, in other words, if he's somewhat manageable within that contract, I think overall this is a general win for Jim Benning today.
Yeah, I think on the whole, you have to say it's a win, barely, but yeah.
Now, within all this this happiness that is being spewed by you guys, the one thing that I'm looking at right here is $18 million, almost $19 million in cap space. You have to sign Jason Dickinson, who you just saw, or you just got, who has ARB rights. You have to sign Connor Garland, who has ARB rights as an RFA. Elias Pettersson, Quinn Hughes, Ole Levy, and you got to round out your defensive. You'll have, what is that? You'll have a top four there, but then you have to at least get three more NHL caliber defensemen on there, depending if you're going to give Juolevi another a next step here, and if he can take that next step, that's not a lot of cap room for that amount of players that need to be signed.
No, it's not. But the question is now, they hinted at taking buyouts as an option to free up some cap space. Have to wonder what's happening there. We've kind of kicked around some ideas about that in the past. I think that's still coming. And then, yes, in regards to Juolevi, I think, considering the big contract you just took on for a defenseman, that kind of pushes the Canucks in the direction of making him a full-timer.
Yeah, we're going to see Virtanen get bought out here early next week. There's no other option unless someone is willing to take that on, but I don't think anyone will be. So that opens up a little bit more. When I look at it, I think I've got that's $18 million without any LTIR used. So you also throw in the $3.5 million that Michael Furland adds there. So you add the buyout and the LTIR of Michael Furland, and that works out to be basically $25 million in cap space. And I think that's more than enough to get it done if you're going to go short term with PD and Hughes. And they're, as I said, I still don't think they're done. I still think they're looking at moving Braden Holtby. I still think they're looking at moving Nate Schmidt. I think with looking at how the Jim Benning's talked about wanting to get bigger and stronger on the blue line. So I think they are going to be looking at moving a Nate Schmidt to open up cap space and bring back some bigger, stronger defensemen. So either way, that's going to open up cap space, I think, and to help them get everyone signed.
Yeah, I have to agree with Sean on that. As much as this was a blockbuster trade, from every insider that I've read in on since the trade has happened, they said that the Canucks are not done yet. They're still actively in the big game hunting sort of way of in the next couple of days. So yeah, we'll see how this situation plays out.
Yeah, and big game hunting's a scary thing to hear for a lot of people in the Canucks fan base, but don't kid yourselves. Ownership will, at the end of the day, spend the cap, and between moves that may come yet and free agent signings, expect that to happen. Expect them to use all the cap space that's available.
And to Gene Guy, he said, no one wants Nate. And I would have to echo that to a certain extent. No one wants Nate at that cap hit. A 30-year-old coming off a bad year, just under $6 million. It's going to be hard to find somebody who is as high on him to get some sort of draft capital and take the full salary. Braden Holtby might be a bit easier considering he has 1 year left and it's only $4.3 million. There will be a team out there who I think at the end of free agency, near training camp, will want to get a veteran goalie in their lineup, and that could be Braden Holtby. But then at that point, okay, then who is going to be your backup? You're going to need to find somebody else as well if you're going to get rid of Holtby. But I just don't see Nate Schmidt's contract that attractive for what he showed last year and what he can do on the ice.
I disagree.
Sorry, Devin.
I have to disagree with you. I'm not saying that Nate Schmidt is the prized possession of the off season, but you kind of look at what the Ryan Suter situation is going to develop here. He's not going north, so I think that there will be a couple of northern teams that will be interested in him. I think Montreal will have a look. I think Winnipeg will have a look. I mean, it's not going to be a lot, but I do think that there's going to be some suitors for Nate Schmidt. I think more than you expect.
He's from Minnesota too, right? Like, I wonder if that could be a possibility as well.
I think
don't
that
see
this year was
Minnesota
an
as a fit.
aberration.
But I do think there are teams available. Sorry for cutting you off there, Kev.
I think that this last year was that's okay, but I think last year was an aberration for him. I really think that this guy does have still a lot to give. I think it was just a shit year in Vancouver, and I think that I think a fresh start for him will be fine, and I think that there will be some teams that will be interested in him.
There's no doubt. Sorry,
I was just going to say to Devin's point about those two possible moves. I mean, the move in Holtby has the added complication of trying to bring another goalie back. I don't think Mikey DiPietro is ready to step in and take on a regular backup goalie NHL workload. So, yeah, the Schmidt deal seems more likely to happen. However, now that it's in the public that he maybe wants out of Vancouver, that really hurts the Canucks' negotiating power there.
Yeah. Before we go on, Devin, I've been asked to do something here.
Yes.
It is Jean-Guy Solier. Is how you pronounce his name?
Gene Guy. I'm sorry, man. I'm really sorry.
Poor Jean-Guy.
From what I hear, you're actually
don't mind. Look, Jean-Guy. Don't mind Devin. Okay, we all struggle with Devin. So you know.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Go for it, Kev. Well, what I was going to say is that yes, he's still a serviceable defenseman in Nate Schmidt, but I think that if you're going to move him, you might have to eat a little bit of that cap.
Possibly. Yep.
Yeah,
it definitely is possible. I think he has more value there than what a lot of people think. Like, I remember hearing this same tired argument about Chris Tanev and Alex Adler for the past 5 seasons. So ultimately, I think Nate brings more offensive punch than either of those D-men did. So ultimately, I think there's going to be some team out there that's willing to pay that price to get an offensive defenseman.
And even if they can't find a deal, because I don't think the Canucks are going to retain on Nate Schmidt with it being 4 years. I think they want to make sure that they're not just nullifying the OEL retention that they got here. He's still very good. I still think he's going to have a bounce back year wherever he ends up, whether it's Vancouver or elsewhere. And he's still going to be a very useful defenseman next season. But it's just, you have to find the right fit. And maybe they take some salary back or what, just to make it work, at least for this season. Maybe that's how they do it, but I don't see them retaining.
Now, can we talk a little bit about this 9th pick that I think Tyler and many Cook fans are sort of feeling here? I'm going to make a statement here.
Go ahead.
Because we did the mock draft last night, and Sean mocked Kent Johnson to the Vancouver Canucks in that pick. That's a great pick. I would say he's probably in the top 5 of forwards in this class. But in terms of if he's what the Canucks particularly need right now, I don't know if Kent Johnson is you already have Petey. You already have a playmaking center, which Kent Johnson is known for. So per se a fit, I don't know. He may be more of a fit in Arizona. There's a lot of people saying about Luke Hughes. I don't think Luke Hughes is going to be 9th. I think he's going in the top 5. And I'm personally not as high on Brandt Clark as a lot of other people are. So there's some panic about that. That's just me. You'll hear other people say differently, but I've seen not as high on him. The one that I think would be a painful hurt would be Mason McTavish. That would be the one that I think if that was a loss. But you look at this draft overall, it's, as Elliot Friedman said, there could be someone sneaking up from that someone had at a 4th round grade coming up in the 1st round. So I think long term, I know that it looks high. It's not as, I don't know if it's going to hurt the Canucks as much as people are panicking there.
I think
it's a crapshoot.
Yeah, well, if you're a believer that this draft is not the strongest of drafts, then this would be obviously a better occasion to part with a 1st round pick than another occasion, right? I mean, Bo Horvat was picked, what was it, 10th in the 2013 draft? And
9th.
9th? Was it 9th? Same thing, 9th. Okay, so are we feeling that the draft pick is worth as much as back then? Just as an example, right? Hard to say. You're still predicting the future, but it's not so much the quality of the pick. It's just that over the last couple of off seasons now, picks going out the door, leaving the cupboard a little bit bare. That has me concerned. I think everybody should be concerned about that. But again, we're not in rebuild mode anymore. There is a core. It is time to try and support that core if you believe in the core. I think that it's fair to maybe question the quality of the core, but that's another discussion for another time probably. But leaving the cupboard bare is certainly a concern that shouldn't be overlooked. Having said that, ownership is not really interested in being much more patient, and frankly, I think most of the fan base, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of the fan base probably isn't interested in another losing season. We can't just go by what the Twitter crowd thinks when a lot of the Twitter crowd is out to get Jim Benning fired. So I know I'm on a tangent here, but yeah, I mean, there's going to be criticism of the move because it is a move that didn't result in Jim Benning getting fired yet.
Yeah,
To add to his tangent, sorry, Sean.
No, it could be wrong, but the way I look at a lot of these players that I think are going to be available at 9, I think they're going to be good second liners, a good sort of second pair defenseman, and that's 5-6 years away from when they actually hit that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just look at that and go, when you have Petey and Hughes needing new, like they've been in the year. They're leading new contracts, and they're 2-3 years into their careers. Höglander, Podkolzin are coming up. You've got Rathbone coming up. You've got Miller, and you have this core that I think you need to be building around and start to give them more better players to work with up and down the lineup, and start pushing to build this team into a perennial playoff team, a perennial team that you go, maybe they've got a shot. And do you actually have that at 9? Are you getting that at getting a player who can help that pretty quickly at the 9th pick? I think that's very debatable. And so I think it's, as much as it does suck to lose draft capital, and it does suck to lose a first round pick, the second one in 2 years as well. I think the ownership and this management group thinks that thinks that this is the time to push in and start to build a core, and see if you can be a playoff team and go. And this is the make or break off season for Jim Benning. If the Canucks don't do anything this year, and they don't make the playoffs and don't even win or even don't even win a round, I think we will be looking at the new GM in Vancouver after that. So this is him pushing his chips in, and I don't think it's as desperate as people make it out to be. I think this is a calculated risk where they went after they targeted 2 players. We've talked a lot about Oliver Ekman-Larsson here, but we need to talk about Connor Garland.
Yeah.
You are getting a very good top 6 winger here who can help push players down into a better spot in the lineup than they would normally be, specifically a Tanner Pearson.
Yes.
You're going to be able to push Tanner Pearson down into a third-line role. You're going to be able to give Bo Horvat legit top 6 players to work with. Even if it's Garland in the third line, you're building depth. You now have a potential third line that can score and be good defensively. Like you've built depth into this lineup now, and which is what they've been missing. They've had the top line. They've had Bo being able to create offense on the second line and have sort of helicopter wingers that keep rotating. They've got Höglander stepped in, has done a really good job. You need him to take the next step, but you also need to make sure that you have depth in the lineup just in case he doesn't take the next step like you're expecting, you still have something there.
Yeah.
So bringing in Connor Garland is a very, very, very good move by Jim Benning here. And I think as I said early on, if you take out the cap hit and the contract of Ekman-Larsson, if you're paying a first, a second, and a seventh for a top 4 defenseman and a top 6 winger, you take that and run. So as I say, you can't actually just look at it like that. There's other issues, but I think the more I look at it, the more I'm okay with the deal, even if the price is expensive.
Just wanted to point out it was 39 points in 49 games last season for Garland on playing for Arizona, right? Not a very strong team, so that should be encouraging.
And I think the other thing with that too is whatever the next question with Connor Garland is not only that, and as Devin brought up, it's the contract. I will argue, I think that there's going to be a legitimate argument that Connor Garland may be more value than a Sam Reinhart. More value. I think you might be paying a lot more for a Sam Reinhart than you are for a Connor Garland. For players that Garland didn't have that great of a season last year, and Reinhart did. But I think ultimately, it's a good value acquisition, and it's a guy that Flame fans, I'm sorry, you're gonna hate this guy. You're really gonna hate watching Connor Garland, because this was one that that Tree should have been in on as well. But that's neither here nor there. But he fits really well in the top 6. I think I think Canuck fans will really really love Connor Garland.
The one thing I really just want to put in before it gets completely lost, just back one topic from Tyler's initial point about Canucks Twitter. We have to remember that Canucks Twitter, even though it's one of the most impactful Twitter voices in the NHL, it is a very, very vocal minority, keyword minority, in the entire Canucks fandom. So essentially we have to treat them like the squeaky wheel that they are.
Mm-hmm.
They still, will have valid points here and there, but we can't live or die by Canucks Twitter. I just wanted to make that point known.
It's a great point. And if you're somebody that's considering the season ticket purchase going into this fall, I have to think that this move certainly helps a few people who are sitting on the fence move in the direction of getting their season tickets renewed.
Now, I have a question, and I guess this is kind of the opposite side of it. What if they waited? What if Jim Benning waited till those contracts were off the books and they had $12 million sitting at the end of this next coming year? And that's the opposite end of this of it all, right?
Yes.
How would he move within that cap space?
Well, he doesn't have as many moves to make because you're still sitting on those dead weight guys. There's moves to be, anything's possible, but I don't see how you bring in anybody of significance when you're still tied up. I think Devin's saying
if you wait a year and you wait till those the 3 deals that they moved today, Eriksson, Roussel, and Beagle are all done.
Okay, but for this year, are we suggesting doing nothing?
That's the other option. There is
to me that's not an option for ownership, and not an option for a lot of the fans either. It's not for me.
I understand that, but I think it is. I think long term it's maybe the better move. But you also don't know. Like I'm trying to look at who's available in the UFA market next year that would be worth it. You got a bunch of 30+ players. You got Gaudreau, who's 28 right now. You've got Forsberg at 27, Barkov at 26. But is that really going to be able to? Are you gonna be able to bring in are they actually going to make it to UFA? I think it was one of those things where they had this option. You're getting a very good Connor Garland. I think you're going to get a better Oliver Ekman-Larsson than everyone's making him out to be. I think he's going to fit into Vancouver's system way better than he was fitting into Arizona's system. and that's the one thing is what I will say this right now, and you can yell at me if you want, but all these analytics that get put out there with all these fancy sheets and charts and everything on social media, they don't take in. I don't think they show well enough defensive skills, and they do not show how different systems can be, and how a player can fit into different systems. So while they are results and they are useful to a point, when I look at what OEL can bring, when I look at what Connor Garland can bring, while this is a risky move with that contract that they're dealing with, I'm liking the risk. I'm liking the chance that they took, the dice roll that they made, and I think it's something that we should be looking forward to seeing what the Canucks are going to look like next season.
I'm just going to toss a theory. Sorry, Chris, I keep interrupting you. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's a smart calculated bet in the sense that my betting money is Forsberg stays in Nashville and Barkov stays in Florida, which basically takes your two most appetizing UFAs off the table. So as far as like a act now versus act later, I honestly think that this was ultimately the smartest move Jim could have made.
I'm just going to toss something out there. If you don't make this, if Garland isn't a Canuck, I could see someone doing an offer sheet for Connor Garland. I could have possibly have seen that. I think that there was a bit reasonable. I mean, a lot of people are like, no, that would rarely happen. I think there would have been a possibility of that happening with Connor Garland, and he wouldn't have been a Canuck. So, Sean, what you're saying about Grafs, though, I just have a question. So, is this
here comes a prop?
Is this what you're saying about Grafs? Then is it kind of like this?
Just a hash,
like that.
So hold on here.
Sorry.
I have a special guest coming on right now.
Oh, excellent.
I got a gold medalist right here. Alex Kopats.
Oh, awesome.
Wow. Hey.
So, how you doing, gentlemen? Little surprise guest.
Good. Nice
yes.
to have you on.
Thanks. No, this is cool. It's been really great getting to know Devin.
See, someone likes me.
It's just truly an honor to know Devin.
Can I ask how much he paid you to say that?
Truly.
There it is. Only 42 minutes for the show to go off the rails today.
Right. Yeah, it's true. So do you have any thoughts on this massive trade that just happened?
Oh yeah, I think they traded really well.
Beautiful.
I think they could have maybe thrown in some extra benefit. Besides just the trade of the players and maybe some extra like socks, shirts, things like that would be cool. A couple extra dollars, you never hurt.
Totally. Well, guys, I gotta go. But have fun talking about the Seth Jones. I'll talk to you guys about it on Sunday here.
All right.
Sounds good, Dev.
All right. See you guys.
Yeah.
And then there were
for those who didn't quite catch that, that's Alex Kopach, gold medal bobsledder.
Oh,
Devin trains at their gym.
Devin and his people. He's. I mean, as we found out last week, Devin's kind of a big deal there in YYC, even if taking Duke staff don't agree. But
I love
Devin. It does, but.
Okay. Any other?
One other thing I did want to say quickly is that a big part of this trade is also you do have Petey and Hughes needing new contracts, and you do want to keep them happy. You want to keep them happy playing on a competitive team.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure both of them are not happy after that last season. Yeah, so I think you have to understand that aspect as well. There was some scuttlebutt about and freaking out in Canucks Twitter about a potential Pettersson offer sheet from Seattle or elsewhere. You've now added a top four defenseman and another winger for both of them to work with. That's gonna help them sign.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's true. Other thing too is the Sedins now part of the hockey operation. I'm sure they had quite a lot of input into this move, and that probably would have given the organization some more comfort, particularly around Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who I'm sure they know pretty well. So there's that, and Ian McIntyre also points this out. The 7.26 million AAV for Oliver Ekman-Larsson provides a bit of a benchmark for these contracts to Pettersson and Hughes, and even though they may make more than that 7.26, it's like a target now for in terms of the internal structure. So that might that's important for the Canucks and going forward as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jean-Guy says, sorry, you're all, it's absurd. Petey wasn't never going to get offer sheeted. I don't think it would have ever gotten to that, but I do to throw the Oilers under the bus here a little bit. I think that there's a situation that you look up there and there's pressure from Ken Holland to put together a pretty competitive team. And I think in Vancouver, maybe not in the same way, which I'm going to make sure that I have my train of thought going here right before I blurt what I'm trying to say. I don't think that it was like, I don't think it was an Oilers land situation in terms of like, you need to get things together now, but I do think that there absolutely needed to be a turnaround. That I do think.
Yeah. Yeah, and my kind of final comment here too is, and it's been suggested on Twitter to me today that, this is a move that while it may push the Canucks towards a playoff spot, or they're just going to get bounced in the first round anyways. Like I just don't agree with that school of thought. We've seen too many examples now over the last decade that, the hardest challenge is to get there, and then once you're there, you never really know. I mean, we saw that with the Canucks in the bubble. Yes, it's not like a real playoff, but they got their opportunity and they performed admirably. They looked like they could, play playoff hockey, and there has been a lot of changes. But the Canucks have to have the depth that Sean's talked about to survive the regular season. They need the group to be happy with how the team is being managed, and I think this is a move in that direction as well. The 6-game road trip to start the season's no help, but I think overall that this is a move that checks a few boxes as far as short-term pushing the team in the right direction to trying to get back to the playoffs, and then we'll see where they go from there. I mean, Montreal was the 18th best regular season record in this pandemic season, and they made it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. So, and I'm sure that's something that's on the minds of ownership as well when they consider these kinds of transactions.
Yeah, I was actually going to add to that point in the sense that both Montreal and then if you want to go back, 7-ish years, the LA Kings were an 8th seed in the year that they won one of their cups. So to add to Tyler's point, once you get to the playoffs, anything is possible. So yeah, we'll see how it plays.
Nashville as well.
Yep.
So
yeah.
Anything else on this that we need to discuss?
Not on this. I don't know if we want to quickly just address the Seth Jones to Chicago thing. Let
alone the additional trade that Columbus just made too.
Okay, well, you guys, I don't even know what's going on.
Breaking news. Where's our sound bit?
Breaking news.
So, all right. As per Frank Saravelli, let's pull that up. The Seth Jones trade is Seth Jones, the 32nd overall pick, a 2022 6th-round pick for Adam Boqvist, the 12th overall pick, a 2022 first-round pick, and a second-round pick in this draft as well. So
wow,
that is a big trade.
and one that would have been a ton of negotiating to arrive at as well when you consider all those picks. Yeah, we kind of hinted at that. A lot of people hinted at that when Caleb Jones was acquired from Edmonton in exchange for Duncan Keith, and here it is, Seth Jones in Chicago. That's going to make a big splash in that market. A star American defenseman coming into a major hockey market, a team that's needed some good news, frankly, due to things happening off the ice. But, Chicago also, I don't think, wants to just have it burnt down here with Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane still around. So, good move for Chicago, and for Columbus, looking towards the future and rebuilding and bringing in some picks.
As far as an interesting anecdote, I think it's kind of cool that Seattle now has the Fleury brothers, and Chicago now has the Joneses. So, like, as a team who
keeping up with the Joneses, there it is.
There we go. As a team who had, a pair of brothers for the longest time, I take some appreciation in the fact that you can reunite some brothers.
What this tells me in terms of draft is either Columbus is not taking a defenseman in the top 5. That's my speculation there. They may go goaltender, may go another route. And I think that there is a number of teams in that fight for Cole Sillinger. So I think he's the lookout there. In that thing there. What was the other trade?
Just a note on Seth Jones there, Kev. He has also been extended for 8 years with Chicago, $76 million. That's $9.5 million AAV. So not insignificant there.
Yeah.
No, the next, and then Columbus used that second round pick that they acquired in that trade to get Jake Bean from Carolina. Damn. So, Kevin, to build on your talk about how they're not they may not be taking a defenseman in the top with their top pick there. That adds to it with when you've got Jake Bean coming there. So because you've got someone there who I don't know what's going on in Carolina, because I thought that Jake Bean is someone who I think should be stepping up and being a very good NHL defenseman starting this upcoming season, and Columbus is getting him at a decent price.
Maybe Hamilton stays in Carolina.
I think that's part. I think that has to happen now if you're going to be trading Jake Bean.
Yeah, if you're doing those sort of moves, that just seems like an inevitability at this point.
Yeah.
Just to go back to an earlier topic about Ole Juolevi with the Canucks and where he fits into their plans, let's remember he was on the expansion protected list, which is an indication of their belief in him. But also Rick Dollywall tweeting a couple of minutes ago here that Jalen Chatfield is pending UFA that will go to the open market. And apparently his agent Darren Ferris has permission to talk with teams right now. So that sort of looks like the Canucks are treating Juolevi like he's in the top 6 next year.
Yeah. I don't know, because Chatfield's a right side guy, and you've got Rathbone coming up on that left side. I think it's going to be a battle between Rathbone and Juolevi to see who's in that top 6 there, and I think they're going to find a way to fill out that right side. Yeah, they're going to fill out that right side if whether or not they keep Nate Schmidt there or they have to bring in a couple more defensemen, because I think they're going to try and bring back Hominick. And I think that'd be a really smart move, but I think they need to find. They're definitely going to need to find another defenseman, especially if they move on from Nate Schmidt.
All right, let's leave it here. We will be back Sunday to recap all of the goings on of this draft. We did our mock draft. I'm going to tweeting what we mocked, by the way, throughout the draft. So keep an eye out for that. How do we follow everyone?
I am Beardy Canucks 03 on Twitter.
I'm on Twitter at TNoble, TNOBLE.
I'm at Schneids on most social media.
Devin is Gordhouse09, but I am challenging him to change his Twitter handle to something Hollywood. And I am KEVOLE, podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, The Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, The Hockey Podcast. Like, subscribe, share, tell your friends. Love the compliments. Thank you, guys. We're doing we love our conversation. We love having fun. Come join us again Sunday, 11 Pacific, 12 Mountain, and we will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.